very first knew that I was suffering from cancer, my request to the doctor was I wanted to hear everything exactly like it is.
There was a time that people, I guess that physicians and family members would say, oh, don't tell her what her diagnosis is, or don't tell her her prognosis, because it'll just upset her, you know.
I think it does not do a favor to tell a patient he is not ill.
And I don't want to be told, you're looking good, when he thinks, God, you look like hell. That's not what I'm after, and I think the majority of other people in the same position would feel that way too.
I think that emotionally and spiritually you rob someone of the ability to perhaps do the sort of work that they might need to do, of tying up loose ends or reconciling where reconciliation needed to be made.
Now, there are some people that would rather not know, I know that. But I think in a case like that, the doctor should give the patient the opportunity and ask, do you want me to be really honest with you or not? I'll tell you everything, or what do you want to know?
If they're really not ready to deal with some things, it's not necessary to bring those up. The family may want to know things about prognosis as much as we can tell, but the patient may not be really ready to deal with that yet, and I don't think that has to be forced on them. On the other hand, I think it really sets up bad dynamics to try to hide things from people, and they know that, so that if they ask a question, I think it ought to be answered honestly.
That way I can better prepare myself for what I'm going to go through.
Generally speaking, patients already know that they're reaching the end of their illness before I tell them, because they can see what's happening with their treatment and know that the treatment isn't working as well as it did before.
Patients probably handle the information better than the family members would expect them to in general.
I think it's just as much a detriment to loved ones for the person who is sick not to say, look, I'm really sick, this is what's wrong with me, and the doctor says that I might not be able to beat this. So that everybody can know what's happening.
If everyone is brought in and everyone is involved, then everyone gets to prepare for, if it's inevitable death, then everyone gets to prepare for that.
We talk about denial, and denial is a word that's used by so many people, and denial, many people think, is a bad thing. And denial is not a bad thing. Denial is a coping mechanism. When we live in a world where we know that our future has been shortened dramatically, it's a difficult existence. So sometimes having dreams of a vacation, or dreams of seeing your children graduate, or dreams of finishing a degree, are the things that get you through the moment. And that's what's important, is making it through that moment. We can't take that away.
Your emotions run high, they run low, they change from day to day.
I'm sure that you have been down with the flu or something for a few weeks, and you've been ready to chew somebody's ears off. Well, I get ready to chew somebody's ears off too.
I think anger is a difficult emotion to deal with, because so often it's hard to identify what you're really angry at. And usually people are angry about everything except what's really on their mind. And I think, again, you just kind of have to bear with some of that. But also, if you can try to help that person articulate what it is they're really angry at, I think that breaks through some of it.
When you look back and you think about all of the plans you've had for the X number of years, the great things that you've wanted to do, the things that you know you're about to do, you're not going to be able to do those anymore.
Once you can identify and say, okay, I'm actually so angry that I have this disease. I mean, that's almost a relief just to be able to say that and not to have to be angry at the people you love and the people that are trying to help you, or your doctor, or your family, or whoever.
I know the majority of people don't like to be around people that are negative, constantly negative. I try not to be, and yet I do get that way, and I know I do. I do all I can to avoid getting into that position, but I don't think it's possible.
It is really important, if you're a family member to someone who's terminally ill, to not take their anger personally. If they are getting angry and lashing out, that could be actually for a wide range of reasons, but one of them might be pain, or just that they have this illness and that this is happening to them.
I can very easily get on the border of crying right in the middle of a conversation. I don't know if that happens to everybody. I think probably to a point at least. It certainly happens to me a lot. You can't hide emotions. Not something of this magnitude anyway. And it's important to me to have somebody to be with where I can, as I have done at times before, just point blank broken down in front of that person. I used to think it's a grown man, it just doesn't cry, and that's not so. If anything, I think it's healthy.
I think everyone clings to the thought of a miracle. And there's always a story on the nightly news about somebody that had a miracle. It's like, well, if they can have a miracle, why can't I? Well, and maybe you can. But my theory is it's sort of like the lottery. You know, I want to win the lottery, and I'll spend $1 to win the lottery, and I'll have hope for that. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to go max out all of my credit cards thinking that I'm going to win the lottery. You know, I can have hope for a miracle, but I'm still going to take care of the business at hand in case the miracle, whatever that may be, doesn't come through. And it doesn't mean that just because I don't have a miracle, a big miracle, that I'm not going to recognize the small miracles that happen every day. You know, the good friend who showed up that I hadn't seen in years, you know, the letter, or the video of my granddaughter, you know, that I didn't ever think I'd get to see. And those are the miracles of the quotidian that we forget.
It's when you're told, or when you know that you're coming toward a close, that you start almost panicking sometimes. Well, I've got to do this, I've got to do that.
Saying goodbye, making reconciliation. What are the things that give my life purpose and meaning? What are the things that I need to complete? What are the things I want to do?
Take a week or a month to seriously consider what your goals for your life are, and what of those goals are important to you in the face of this illness, and which ones can be let go of, and then set about trying to reach some conclusion and closure in your life.
Now, if a person is terminal and yet has children, and maybe has property, has things that need to be taken care of, and people that need to be taken care of, and he or she is living in such denial that, you know, there's been no will, there's been no guardian created, and there's been no guardian appointed for the children, then that person needs to have some talking to. You know, and you can couch it in the terms of saying things like, you know, it's important to have a will so that the state doesn't get everything. You know, even if the cancer doesn't get you, you might be in a car wreck, you might have a heart attack. You know, who's going to take care of the kids? Do you really want them to go to X, Y, or Z? You know, just get the details in order. And then, if a person has a lot of obstacles to their emotional or spiritual work, then they can work those out. But they've got the legal and financial details taken care of.
I sat down with some family members and we discussed in a practical fashion what they would like when I'm no longer around. And we got to a point of, for example, I was saying to one of my family that I want you to have this after. And making things known like that, and several of us, we sat together and we discussed to a point where I would say, well, is there anything you would really like? And it wasn't an animal-like sort of discussion where the dogs are just running in and grabbing the bones. It was a good, cold, collective discussion. And we got a lot of things ironed out.
Society's expectation is that we live a certain length of time, that we go through the different stages of life and that we make it through all of them, and then we die at an old age. And we become really attached to that point of view. And the truth is that that's not so, that there are no rules about how long one should live, and that the degree to which we can let go of that expectation, that expectation that life unfolds a certain way, is the degree to which we have the opportunity to find peace.
This particular patient I visited was one of those people that just really used getting this terrible disease and having this terrible thing happen to him to grow through it. And I know that kind of sounds like that ideal kind of rosy-colored glasses kind of thing, but some people actually are capable of that and do that so well. He learned, I think, to love people better. He used the time he had to do what he wanted with it and to really learn the things he wanted to learn, to read everything he could, to really tell people how he felt about them, to be very honest.
I've accepted the fact that I'm going to die, not like you, a whole lot sooner than you. And yet at the same time, I've not given up. And I won't, right to the end.
Each person should decide what's important to them and focus on just what's important, because there really isn't time for the unimportant things.
I would hate to see a friend of mine go through what I'm going through. But it's a real world, and they do. It's going to hit somebody else. I wish I could be there. I would love to come back again and be with somebody that has gone through this, and to help them, because now I know what to expect, and I would just love to be able to come back and be with that person.